Welcome to our Devos, where we have been examining the importance of being generous and really specifically looking at how to be generous. It goes beyond our financial means. If we could only be generous by financially be giving, a lot of us would be in trouble. So there are ways that God uses our intentions to bless others in the church in ways that we couldn't imagine. Today, I want to encourage you to try something a little bit different. Today, I want to encourage you to give someone wisdom. To give someone wisdom. What in the world does that mean? Well, first of all, you don't give somebody wisdom unless they ask for it. You never want to be that person that's asking or that's giving advice that's not called for. You want to be a person that uses what they have experienced to help somebody else that's going through something similar. Let me explain this a little bit deeper. We have all collectively been through unique things. Wouldn't you agree? We've gone through different trials in our lives. Some of us have had a remote amount of success in other areas and done well. Some of us have had unique opportunities to overcome relational deficits, and we figured out how to thrive in those situations. All of that collective wisdom, did you know that God wants to use that? He wants to use those things. He specifically wants to use things related to the trials and the struggles that you've been through. A lot of times we tend to kind of divorce ourselves from those past experiences and we say, well, God's healed me that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. But I want to let you know, some of your greatest messages of encouragement and generosity could come from your greatest messes that you have overcome. I want to be known by this. I don't care that people associate me with it, but one of the things that God has used in my life over the last 5 or 6 years is the subject of anxiety. In 2016, I went through an intense period of 9-month debilitating general anxiety, panic attacks, depression, more than just about anyone I've ever dealt with in the church. I mean, it was horrendous. It had severe implications on my health, on the way I interacted with my wife and my kids, and even how I was working and how I was handling my job. Well, I believed that God was going to heal me. But for the first 6 or 7 months, I had no idea why God was allowing me to go through this. I'm like, why am I having these things? Why am I not just healed? What's going on? Like, what's the purpose of all this? And then towards the end, I realized the whole reason, one of the reasons, I don't want to say the whole reason because God has multiple reasons for doing different things. One of the things that God did in allowing me to come through that valley was to allow me to help other people that are going through the same thing. So since then, I have talked to, counseled, and guided countless amounts of people in the church when they're going through anxiety. And every single time somebody calls me and they say, hey, you know what, I've been having panic attacks, and I was wondering if I could talk to you, I smile to myself, not because of their situation, but I smile because I realize this is God ordaining to use this thing that I have been through to help them to cross the bridge that they're on at this very moment. Paul talks about this in the opening part of his second letter to the Corinthians. We see, he says, God comforts us in all of our affliction so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. The comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. When you think about that verse, realize God comforted you when you came through a certain thing. God comforted you when you yourself thought that you had no hope. Now he wants to use you and commission you to be that encouragement and to give that wisdom when he calls upon you to give it. It's not to be hoarded. Healing is not to be hoarded. And so often, we tend to bury that as a part of our past when God wants to take the beauty that he's woven into the fabric of that damage that you've sustained. And he wants to throw it out before people that are genuinely in need of the hope that you yourself have experienced by God's providential hand. So don't undercut that. And on a separate note, keep in mind this. If you're successful in an area, be willing to give somebody else that wisdom. It doesn't always have to be tragedy. Sometimes the most generous thing that you could do for someone is letting them borrow some of your degree. Not the degree that necessarily you went to school for, but what you learned about certain things. You know, Pastor Mike, he has so many different gifts and different things that he's done in his life apart from ministry. And Occasionally, he'll help people by giving them advice on these things. I have weird things that I do on the side. I write. I know a lot about writing. I've helped people in the church about writing. I help people about public speaking. I do that stuff on the side. God uses that. It's all connected, all on the table. And it's all an avenue for you to take an opportunity to be more generous.